General Brnovich, thanks very much for being with us. Title 42, why should it stay in place?
Well, thank you for having me on, John. Title 42 has to stay in place because it is one of the only tools we have left in our toolbox that is preventing even further chaos. It's essentially a revocation of that right now would be like throwing gasoline on a 3-alarm fire. It is estimated literally that it'll lead to a surge where more than 500,000 illegal immigrants will come across in the first month when it's lifted. And right now, as a prosecutor, as a law enforcement official, our system's already strained, our social services are strained, and it will completely overwhelm our system and further enrich the cartels if it is revoked.
I want to play for you something that Joel Villarreal said. He's the mayor of Rio Grande City, Texas. Listen to his take on Title 42.
Wants to talk about open borders and continued influx of migrants, but reality is 70% are being expelled. But on the left side, they want to be talked about as far as having immigration friendly and not be considered deporters in chief. The point is, Title 42 does work, and it has been highly effective. However, it is not the permanent solution to our broken immigration system.
Part of what he had to say also is that there were 1.7 million apprehensions at the border in fiscal year 21, and roughly 1.2 million of them, he says, were returned under Title 42. Do you agree with those numbers, first of all? And what about his point that both sides are sort of blowing the argument, I guess you could say?
Well, the key point, John, is that we're talking about significant numbers, whether it's 1.2 million or 1.7 million. Title 42 was used to basically expel and deny entry to 1 million people. I mean, that's like the city of Baltimore, Maryland, twice over, essentially. So we are talking about a very, very significant number. And I do agree that Title 42 is not a permanent solution, but my goodness, the Democrats they haven't allowed, we've had to sue them over permanent guidance and temporary guidance where they're not deporting more than 1 million people with deportation orders. So you're having criminals, people charged with serious crimes being released into our communities. I was at the U.S. Supreme Court just 6 weeks ago arguing on the public charge rule where they were giving government benefits to non-citizens. We've heard the stories just this week about everything from cell phones to airline tickets. We know that there's hotel rooms where people that have entered the country illegally going into. So the taxpayers are getting screwed. I mean, this is fundamentally unfair when you have people that have broken the law now that are getting government benefits. So is Title 42 a permanent solution? No, but it is one of the only things left preventing us from having even further chaos at their southern border. And let me just add one thing, John. I would urge, all these folks that are talking about no-fly zones in Ukraine, I think it's about time we had a no-lie zone when it comes to discussing our southern border, because it's time for the BS to stop. It's time for the politicians in D.C. to understand Americans are paying the price with our lives and with our dollars as a result of the failed policies of the Biden administration and people in Washington, D.C.
Well, some people in Washington, D.C., even on the Democrat side of the aisle, seem to be getting the message that Americans are upset. We have a graphic of 8 senators, and now I believe the number is 9 because Senator Mark Warner has joined them in expressing concerns about the ending of the Title 42 restrictions. The guy that you want to oppose, Senator Kelly, is among those who's expressing concerns, as is your other Democrat senator, Kyrsten Sinema. Are minds changing on this issue in Washington?
Well, I don't know if minds are changing, but one thing we know about that permanent political class in D.C. is they do things because it's politically expedient. And so I welcome anyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, whoever you are, if you want to protect our borders because border security is national security, I say welcome to the fight. But for a lot of these, Democrats now, it seems like we've got this 3-alarm fire that we've talked about. The Biden administration is trying to put gasoline on it, and now they're showing up with squirt guns saying, hey, do you think some water may help? And the problem is that they have helped create this mess by incentivizing, decriminalizing, and monetizing people breaking the law and coming over here illegally. So it's a good sign that they're finally recognizing that their failed policies are having real consequences on middle America and hardworking taxpayers.
Attorney General of Arizona, Mark Brnovich. General Brnovich, thanks for coming on.
John.
We'll see you again. Meantime,